How to quickly perform an accounting cycle, by entering just the essential information. This lesson is for an accountant, or bookkeeper, who wishes to build up a financial report, without going through any of the operational processes. 2 parts of this lesson: the setup, and the accounting cycle. We will quickly go through the chapters first, then followed by the full demonstrations. Assuming you just created the organization, configure the organization name, address. Then setting up any bank account, petty cash, etc. And then set up the chart of account, categorizing equity, assets, liability, income and expenses. Next is to enter all the product name and price that is used in invoices. Optionally, you may configure the document automatic number generation, should you deem helpful. An accounting period is up to you to define, you may set it as monthly, or annually. Entry for the accounting cycle begins by entering all the sales invoices. Next is entering the expenses. There are 2 ways of entering expenses: via purchase invoice, or using bills payment. For business purchases that are accrual basis, asset or inventory, use the purchase invoice. For simple cash payments, such as sundry expenses, recurring utility bills, or any non-business related expenses, use bills payment. Once you have all the income and expenses entered, get your bank statements and run over them for the period. Create a receipt voucher to knock off invoice for every payment that you received. The same goes with payment voucher, to knock off purchases for every payment you issued. If the payment was a part of a bill, load up the bill and mark the bill as paid. Be sure you mark the payment date according to the bank statement. Most of your business-related transactions are performed. If you have other transactions that needed to be entered, do it with the journal entries. These examples are director draws, banking fees, accrual, provision, payrolls, etc. Next is bank reconciliation. If you have performed the previous entry accordingly, this step shall be fairly straightforward. Lastly is to create an accounting period, and closing it. After closing the period, you will have access to the final financial report. Now we come to the full lesson and demonstration. We will demonstrate each of the steps. Use the description below to jump to chapters. Starting with a new organization. Go to Settings menu, Organization. Company. Fill in the business registration name. Registration number. Full address. This includes city, state, and country. Business registration country. State. City. Currency to be used by the transactions. Set 2 logos. One for rectangular, one for square. Update. Next is to set up any bank account, or merchant payment account. Go to Finance menu. Settings. Bank account. Petty cash is being set by default. So let's add a bank account. Click on New Account. Set code to MBB, name, Maybank. Enter description. Type as current account. Bank name. Bank SWIFT code. Account number. Account holder name. Account currency. Ledger. If you already have the corresponding ledger created at the chart of account, select it. Otherwise leave it as blank. Pay instruction. These lines of text will appear in your sales invoices. You may auto-generate the default instructions. Activate. Create. As you create a new bank account here, a new ledger has also created over at the chart of accounts. The ledger code and name is automatically generated, but you can change it after this. Let's quickly do one more bank for CIMB, before moving on to next chapter. Okay. Let's move on to setting up chart of account. Go to Finance menu. Settings. Chart of accounts. When a new organization is being created, a default set of common account is being preset. You may deactivate accounts that are not relevant to this organization. Otherwise, all you have to do is to review the cash equivalent section, and further customize the expenses sections. Chart of account is presented in a tree structure. Each parent may be expandable or collapsible. There are 5 types of root accounts: asset, liability, equity, income and expenses. Previously we created a Maybank and CIMB Bank. Let's check it out by navigating to Current Asset. Cash Equivalent. Maybank. Edit. We will change to code to match the remaining numbering system. Update. Same goes for the CIMB Bank. Next, we will create a sub-account under the Expenses account. Click at the plus sign to create a sub-account. Parent ledger has been initialized under Expenses. So we enter the account code. Name: printing and stationeries. Description: all expenditures related to printing and stationeries. Type as an expense. Activate. Create. The financial report relies on the structure of the chart of account, up to the third level. Please ensure the structure is organized as intended. If you wish to alter the default account used, go to Finance menu, Settings, Default, to make the necessary changes. Next part of the setup is to add sellable products. Go to Sales menu, Settings, Product. In order to ensure smooth data entry, each product must be entered into the system. Let's create our first product. Enter the product code, product name, description. Type as inventory. Price. Tax settings are applicable when this organization is eligible under GST or VAT tax system. For more tax-related information, you may check out from CloudBee Knowledge Center. Press Create to create your first product. Then do it for all the products. After completing the setup, we can now begin the data entry that happened during the period. As a reminder, this is an express demonstration to prepare the financial record. You are entering the most essential data into the system, bypassing many standard procedures. Some of the dashboard information will not be completely available. To create an invoice, obtain a list of invoices that have been issued to customers. Sort it by the document number and date. Go to Sales menu, Invoice. Click on New Sales Invoice. Leave the order blank. Enter customer company name. If this customer is new, click on Create New Customer. Enter the customer brand name, business registration number, registration name and registration address, and click Create. Then enter the name of person in charge. Since this person is new, we click Create. Enter the name and other necessary information, and create. After the person in charge is selected, enter the invoice number and the date of the invoice. At the first cell from the order line items, enter the product code, or the name of product. Description and price is loaded up accordingly. Next is enter the quantity. Then continue doing for the remaining rows. Discounts are set by each line. Click on the Show Discount checkbox. The discount value can be an absolute amount, or percentage amount. Any discounted amount is posted to Discount Allowed ledger. If this organization is eligible for tax system, click on the Show Tax checkbox, to enable tax code. You have the option to toggle the product price, for being tax inclusive, or exclusive. Select the receiving account. Upload the scanned digital copy of your invoice as a supporting document. This attachment will be very handy when CloudBee automatically compiles a comprehensive document package for audit. Press Create. At the top right, advance the status to Confirmed. Once confirmed, this transaction is now posted to the ledger, visible from the finance report. We shall leave the payment receiving part to later. Continue entry for all the invoices within this period. Once all the sales invoice being done, we will move on to registering expenses. There are two ways of creating expenses: bill payment, and purchase invoice. Bill payment is best suited for simple transactions that are cash basis, and recurring, such as utility bills, sundry expenses, or other fees. Purchase invoice is for business-related purchases, such as asset purchase, inventory purchase. The transactions are accrual basis, oftentimes involving progressive payments. You shall first decide and group the expenses that will be using purchase invoice, or bill payment entry. We begin with the purchase invoice entry. Go to Purchase menu. Invoice. New purchase invoice. Similar to sales invoices, the steps are the same, with one additional field, called Ledger. This field is meant for posting individual line item to different expenses ledgers. This also means it is important that you have all the expenses being configured properly from the chart of account. Payment instruction. As per vendor invoice. This is optional if your goal is just to produce the financial report. Attachment of the source document. Create. Confirm this invoice. And there, you have successfully registered the first purchase invoice. Continue with the remaining invoices. For bill payments, go to Finance menu. Bill payment. New bill. Select your vendor. Create if necessary. Enter the vendor bill number. Enter a short description. Having a description allows you to easily distinguish among the bills from the same provider. Date of this bill. As for line items, it is up to your discretion to decide how many details to enter. Your primary goal is to categorize the items so that each amount is posted to the corresponding expenses ledgers. If without constraint, you may opt to aggregate the total amount as a single line. As for this example, we will itemize each type of charges. Payment instruction, as stated on the bill. This instruction allows a convenient way to prepare payments. Of course, this is optional if your goal is just to produce the financial report. Now, normally a bill will be saved as a draft at this point. The next 4 fields are for the payment, issued for the bill. You will need to know the paying account. Transaction details. Date of the transaction, as cleared by the bank. It is recommended to clear the bill payment in bulk later when you are going through the bank statement. Anyway, let's continue to demonstrate on how to clear a bill payment. Select payer type as company account. Select the paying account as Maybank. Payment details will be the check number. Status set to cleared. Set the clearance date as per bank statement. Double check and click Update. Alright. You have entered all the income and expenses documents. Now we will walk through each of the bank statements, to knock off each invoice and bills. Your first step is to identify, and label each of the transactions with the corresponding invoices and bills. Take the first item. It belongs to a sales invoice. So load up the sales invoice from the Sales menu. Go to Sales menu. Invoice. Search for the invoice number. And then open. On the top left, click on Receiving Payment to create a receipt voucher. Follow to the newly created receipt voucher. When you create a receipt voucher from an invoice, the type and payer ID have been pre-filled. Enter the date of the receipt. Below you will find a list of pending invoices that are pending for payment. Tick the checkboxes accordingly, to knock off any paid invoice. If the payment is partial, fill in the amount at the Receive Amount column. Next is to select the account in which the bank receives the payment. For this receipt, is Maybank. Enter the payment details with the transaction number. Set the payment clearance status to cleared. Carefully set the clearance date to the actual transaction date consistent with the bank statement. If not otherwise, you will have to deal with it at bank reconciliation later. Attach any supporting document if you have any. Click Update. With the payment status set to cleared, this transaction is now posted to respective ledgers. Repeat the same process for all sales invoice, purchase invoice, and bill payments. The process of clearing bill payment is similar. Check out the earlier chapter as we had demonstrated the steps. As for the remaining transactions from the bank statements, the entry will be performed using the journal entry approaches. In this case, we have an interest received from the bank. Go to Finance menu. Journal entry. Create new journal entry. First is to set the transaction date time. Then the description. Bank interest paid. First line. Maybank. Debit amount of 45.39. Next line. Other income. Credit. Amount of 45.39. Create. Double check. Change the status to post. There. This journal entry is now posted to the respective ledger. Continue doing so for all the necessary transactions. Bank reconciliation is the process of explaining any balance variance between your bank ledger against the bank statement. Since our previous process is mostly based upon the bank statement, we can expect a smooth reconciliation process. Have your bank statement ready by your hand. Go to Finance menu. Operation. Reconciliation. New reconciliation. Select Account. Maybank. Set the period begin, with the beginning date. Set the period end, with the last date of the period. Balance, as per the bank statement. Create. Now, you are presented with the unreconciled items from your account ledger. Your first step is to compare your ledger against the bank statement. Check and tick each of the matching items that are presented on both sides. Your goal is to achieve the balance differences of 0 upon checking each of the matching items. However, if you encounter items on your bank statement that are not in your ledger, that means you have missing documents. Typically these issues are bank-initiated transactions, such as bank fee, interest paid, uninformed payment, dishonored check, or reversals of transactions. So, your second step is to create the necessary documents to satisfy your ledger. For an in-depth lesson on reconciliation, check out from Cloudbee Knowledge Center. Next, put in any explanatory remarks to justify a matter that needs to be addressed. This will help auditors down the road. Attach the bank statements for references. Update. After achieving a balance difference of 0, proceed to complete this reconciliation. Download the PDF for the Reconcile report. To close an accounting period, go to Finance menu. Operation. Period. Create a new closing period. Enter the period beginning date, and ending date. Press Create. Then you are presented with a list of transaction summary that occurs within the period. Each of the documents must be either completed, or cancelled. As you can tell, we have not prepared our CIMB account reconciliation. Once all the document has been green-lighted, you may proceed to close the accounting period. Upon closing, the system will no longer allow any backdating, past closing period. Please double-check before closing. So congratulations, you just completed an accounting cycle with Cloudbee. You may now access to the reporting section to query any reports that you need. Thank you for attending to this lesson. Join our Cloudbee community and Knowledge Center to learn more tips and tricks.